Hi there, everybody. Hope everybody had a happy Easter. Had time with their families and enjoying spring if you're getting some nice weather. I know a lot of areas are now. So here we are mid-April. Getting towards the end of April, and we're going to do an April layout update. So let me take you around and not trip here. Let me take you around and I'll show you what I've been doing over the last month. So we've got a loud, grindy train going around today. First thing I'm going to show you are the backdrops right here. And I'm going to talk about the backdrops for a moment and how I'm doing my backdrops. Because I've had a comment or two about, well, the backdrops. What are they, and you know, is this it? Well, the answer is no. This is only the first part of the backdrops, like the substructure. So eventually, well, let me tell you what these are made out of first. So most of the panels are made out of a foam board, which is like less than $1 at Walmart or Hobby Lobby or wherever. And I simply just, for some of them, like those back there, or even these right here in front of me, I was able to put them on the backs of these modules without cutting them. And I say that, and this one right here is cut. Anyway, it was a quick way to get a backdrop on the layout, cheap and easy. Painted them blue, again, except for those two. But again, this is only the substructure. Now, some of these are plywood, and I'm going to talk about those in a minute because that's part of the work I've done. So eventually, these backdrops or these panels will get covered or wrapped in a photo backdrop. Okay, and I'm still looking around to see what ones I like. I have an idea, and I'll probably talk about that in a future video. So yeah, this is only the beginning of what the backdrops will look like. Okay. It's not a finished product. It's just a substructure that the photo backdrop will go on. Both sides, this side here and the opposite side, because you can see both sides of the backdrops all the way around. And I'll do both this layout and layout B that sits all the way down there. I don't know when I'm going to do that. Unfortunately, because the layout for the most part is only 3 feet deep and all the structures and everything are not secured, they can just be removed out of my way. It shouldn't be that hard to put the photo backdrop on these panels. Alright, and of course I use different panels because these are modules that come apart, so obviously the backdrop has to come apart. But let's get over here. So in this section, okay, it had just these thin foam board panels. Okay, right here in this section was just a bunch of like leftover panels that I just kind of slapped in there just to have a backdrop between this side and the other side, because you can see there, like, there's a road that dead ends at the backdrop. It doesn't continue into this scene, so I had to divide it off in some way. Okay, here's one of those panels. So you can see it's pretty thin foam, so they're inexpensive. They take paint very well. Yeah, and then down the road I'll wrap that with some kind of photo backdrop. But these I have replaced, not just to get rid of that patchwork job that I had, but these have been replaced with 1/2-inch plywood. Okay, I've mentioned in the past that I'm going to build a diorama up here, independent of the main layout, for the Huckleberry Railroad, which is what this locomotive is for right here. Okay, the Huckleberry Railroad, located just north of Flint, Michigan, is a narrow gauge heritage line. Okay, and I thought it'd be really cool to model that. I've been there many times. I've been there with my family, my kids. Okay, and I'll tell you more about the Huckleberry Railroad and the Crossroads Village in a future video. Hopefully at some point I can get out there and film the real train and explain a couple of interesting facts about the locomotive that I have here versus the prototype that they have there. Anyway, in order for me to put those scenes up here, I had to have something strong enough to hold it up. Okay, so the foam board, that thin foam board, just wasn't going to cut it. So I put the 1/2-inch plywood, which is definitely strong enough. And eventually, when I decide to build this diorama up here, I'll put shelf brackets up here. And then using foam, because it's lightweight, I'll make the diorama. And it will sit up top here. Okay. And then under that, I'll have to put some kind of LED strip lighting or something. Otherwise, this area down here will be shadowed and dark. And so, that'll be a fun project for the future. But I wanted to make the backdrops look a little better than they did. I put a little patch of clouds there because I have a bracket connecting those two pieces of plywood together. Okay, so yeah, that's one thing I worked on, was starting to beef up the backdrops right here, and of course I painted them blue. And again, this is the substructure, so this will all get wrapped later in a photo backdrop. And over here, behind Tawas, I've done the same thing. So that panel and this panel here are both 1/2-inch plywood. Eventually, these two panels, which you can see are foam. I don't know. Can you see that they're foam? They're foam. And this one here will get replaced with the plywood as well, for the very same reason, is I'm going to have another diorama scene separate from the main level of the layout here. It's going to go up here, which would be the what was the AuSable Valley Miniature Railroad that was in Fairview, Michigan, and that was a fun little place. If any of you have ever seen or ordered from the I think it was the Schrader or the Schroeder catalog. That's where they were based out of, was Fairview, Michigan. And they had on their property a miniature quarter-size railroad that you could ride. And it was a beautiful property, very well maintained, very well loved. And they retired. The owners retired a few years back, and I think they sold it off to somebody out of Texas. So I don't know what's happened with the place since then. I don't think they're open today. I don't know if the catalog or the catalog business is still around. But yeah, it's something that I greatly enjoyed with my family and my kids. So I want to definitely make sure that that's modeled. And being it's a miniature, was a miniature railroad, I'm gonna model it using Z-scale. So all the structures and figures and everything will be HO, but the train will be Z-scale to represent a miniature railroad, ride-on railroad. Alright, so we're now on the other side of that new backdrop, and I don't think in the last update that this center span was sitting here. I know I was working on the bridge, but I don't think the span here itself was in place, and it's just sitting there for now. And so I cut that and I laid it in here, and I really haven't done much to this bridge since, because I started working on a few other areas of the layout, plus a couple life events came up, so they occupied some of my time. But I added a couple vehicles on there just to hold this, just to hold the plastic down, so it could transition from off the arch here onto the plywood. This will all eventually get painted, and curbs and lighting and everything put on it. And I'll put the girder work along the edge. And I have some of the material to do that. I just haven't done that yet. So, but the entire sub road bed, if you will, for the road or the highway is there. Okay, all the way across. So I still have to build the transition piece that will connect these two arches together into one. And of course all the other girder work and stuff I mentioned. But yeah, this is definitely going to be a signature scene on this layout. While we're here, I'll start with these buildings because they're right here. I've added a couple buildings. Now these are just the shells. This is just going to be a small distribution warehouse. See, I put a little truck there. And this is where the parking area will be, or the truck loading area will be. And a little office here for the bridge maintenance crew. Okay. So I had that little side street. Originally it went across the tracks, but I decided to change that because it didn't quite work with the bridge right here. It ran into each other. So I cut the road short, and now it's just a little maintenance street to go to the maintenance building for the bridge maintenance crew. And all the way down there at the end of the locks, let me try to zoom in on those. There they are. This building here, whoops, big finger there. Okay, that's the administration building for the Soo Locks, and that tower up top is where the lockmaster sits, so he can see the ships and the boats and tell them what lock to use and so on. And then that little building is a post office. Okay, I've actually taken a tour of both of those buildings once a year. Zoom out because the shaking was a little rough there. Once a year prior to COVID, they had Engineers Day at the Soo Locks, usually at the end of June. And you could actually go out on the locks. Okay, you would walk across the gate from one lock to the other after you go through security. Okay, and you could actually get right up close to the big ships as they pass through, and you could go into those buildings and look around. So that little building is it's actual U.S. Post Office for the crew members on board the big lake freighters that pass through the Soo Locks. And while we're right here, you might see that the coffee cans have hats. And that's because I was finally able to find some grain bins. So for now I haven't assembled the bins, but I did get the hats, the roofs out of the boxes, and I put them on the cans to kind of see how big they'll be. I think a lot of people figured that I was going to have a grain elevator using silos like those. But actually what I was after were the grain bins. Now we have both types of bins or silos or grain facilities here in Michigan. I wanted to go this route because I see a lot of these, pretend they're bins, not coffee cans, as opposed to the silos. Okay, and I already have silos like over there for the cement plant, and of course at Dow Chemical, got some silos there. So the bins are a nice way to kind of break that up. So I just have to get those together and finish getting the feed mill together and everything else and start wrapping up this scene. Okay, so a few new structures. There's one more. Let me go show you. Here in Durand is a little office. And I had to figure out what the prototype business or industry or whatever it is. I had to find out what it is, and so I can model this more appropriately. Now, this office and that warehouse are part of the same set. It's a distribution center, I think. I could go find out. The boxes on the other side of the layout here. They're both from the same kit, Walther's kit. And so I ended up getting two businesses from one kit. Which was really nice. There's one of the grain bins. There's the other. That administration building, boy, look at the shadow on that. Right under the light. The administration building that I showed you in the locks is actually made out of two kits. The Liberty Trust Bank, which is the bottom portion, and the tower is made from this. I say this. Interlocking tower. This, yeah. Okay, it's still heavy. There must be a lot in that box yet. Anyway, that's what it's made out of. So it is a distribution center. It's the beverage distributors. So I'm like, I don't really need all of that in one area, but I do need this and this in two different areas. So that's what I did. I also got the grain dryer here to go with those grain bins, and somewhere over there is the grain elevator, which can you see it on here? I don't really want to go dig it out right now from the shelf. You can't really see it. Don't know if I'm showing you the floor or what, but the elevator part that goes up back here, and then these pipes come down from it. to the dryer, which is down here, which is that. And then over here is that little office. Okay. Now here's a sheet of evergreen plastic. It's corrugated metal. Well, why are you showing us that, Kevin? What does that have to go with? Well, remember how I said I split this up? Let me show you something. And it has to do with this back wall here on the office. So the warehouse section, it comes with all 4 walls. Okay? And you can put them in any configuration you want. This wall is blank. And that's where the office would attach. But the office only comes with 3 walls. So I had to make a wall. This one is made out of that corrugated sheet I showed you. So I just measured, cut, glued it on there. And once it's painted, you'll never know. And I didn't care if it had windows or anything, because this wall faces the tracks, so might as well be a blank wall. So yeah. Alright, and the last thing I did to the layout over the last month, I think, was planted a bunch of trees. So this is something that I was able to do on the whole layout. So I bought a bag of trees from JTT. It was a bag of 90 trees. 90. And I thought, wow. This layout ate those trees up though, you know. Now they're all smaller trees, which is fine because trees come in all different shapes and sizes. They're all pine trees. The bag came with 3 or 4 varieties of pine trees, so some of them looked different than others. But here's some of them, and they range anywhere from like 2 inches to 5.5 inches in height, maybe 6 if you're lucky. So they're, in my opinion, for HO scale, they're on the smaller side. But again, there are small trees out there. Don't forget to put small trees on your layout because it's important. But they're everywhere. Here. So there's some places where you can easily see them. And there's other places on the layout where if you didn't know better, you wouldn't know I added trees at all. There's a couple. 3. A few there. Couple right there. I think those 2 little ones are part of that pack. Those 2. One of those was there. There's a couple right here. See, and there's a couple, and you see how they look way different than them? Different type of pine. One back there. Couple here. At the prototype location, this power plant in Alpena, there is a string of pine trees that they've planted along the river here. So I'm like, yeah, it'd be something easy I could do. Just kind of walking around for you. I know some people like that. Over here in layout B, I actually planted a bunch of those trees. And this is a place where if you didn't know better, you wouldn't know I planted any trees over here because it already had quite a few. But it definitely needs a lot more because this is a heavily wooded area on the prototype. There's a couple in there. I mean, I know you're looking at a whole bunch of trees right now, so you just have to take my word for it. Some of those are new. Some of those are from that pack. One right there. That one. And so on. right there. Well, that's dark. Here, I got a fix for that. There it is. Right there. Okay. Now over here, there's a few. This hill is probably a good place where you can definitely see some pine trees. There were no pine trees on this hill, so these are all from that set. And you see there's a couple different, I think there's 3 different varieties here, 3 different species. So maybe some blue spruce and some cedar and the fall trees, they were there. Because eventually this part of the layout will have fall colors like layout B, fall colors. Because it's further north where the leaves turn earlier in the year. There's one. And there might be one in here somewhere. There were pine trees in here, but I think it's that one by the little pond there. Like walking past the bridge. All the pine trees here on the corner are new, or from that pack. Per the prototype, there's pine trees along Portage Avenue. And we're just in time for the train. Going under one bridge and across another. These pine trees are from that set. There were no pine trees there before. While I'm right here, I'm actually thinking about, and most likely will, expand the cornfield up through here. And I'll just take this grass and stuff and I'll use it somewhere else. At first I thought, well, this is part of the chemical plant. So they're not gonna, the farmer's not going to be able to get in there to grow corn because it would be all fenced off. And now I'm thinking, I'll just have the fence go this way, and the farmer still owns that. And that would make the field bigger and I think look better. It would flow off into the distance and probably out and around, you know, big like a real cornfield would be. And then here, I'm thinking about taking the FedEx and the Taco Bell and putting them there and turning this into a wheat field. A little bit more countryside, because I think a lot of mountain railroads lack open countryside, open running. So I definitely want to include that here. Give the illusion of distance between one place and another. So I'm going to make this all farmland right in here, from like there, of course back up in there, up through there, and all the way over to there. And then these structures will just go into the Owasso area, which is already determined by what's going on back here. Alright, I hope you stuck with me on this one. I know I took my time and tried to make this video a little bit longer so everybody could have a good look at everything. Gave me a chance to maybe not talk too fast. And I'll have the layout behind me here. So yeah, that's the update for April. So hopefully I'll have a lot of fun stuff for you in May. We'll see what all I get done. Thanks for watching, everybody. Until I'll stop rocking. And until next time, take care. Bye for now.